It's hard to think about your red flags though, because I'm just like, well, I'm a beautiful girl and I'm perfect and I love, and everybody should love me back because I do no wrong and I try my hardest. And what do you mean red flag, right? But in all seriousness, we all have our personal red flags. We all have our flaws. Everybody have them thing. Hi guys, welcome back to Bear, and this is Open Therapy, episode 19. I'm back, right? We're back. All right, I told you I was coming back last week for real, and I'm here for real, right? So today is going to be kind of a short episode. It's going to be our bestie chats about things that I've just been thinking about this week, or things that I've found fascinating or interesting this week. And it all ties into the quote from last episode by Esther Perel that I wanted to discuss. So if you're interested in hearing me talk about my red flags on the internet, and there's a thread I follow on Instagram. There's a thread or post, multiple parts to the post, that kind of is discussing like how men sometimes marry women they don't even like. And I thought that concept was fascinating, and each part of the post just got more interesting. So I'm going to try and actually put those pieces up, and we're going to discuss it. We're in chat. Alright, so if you're interested, stick around. Alright guys, so first up, we're going to start with that quote from last episode by Esther Perel. If you're not familiar with who Esther Perel is, she is an amazing psychotherapist. She is actually, I think, a mix. She's originally, I think, from Belgium, if I have that correctly. You can Google her. I'll put her name up on the screen. She is just fantastic. Her work is fantastic on human relationships and connection, and I think I was introduced to her first through maybe a TED Talk, not sure, but she speaks a lot about eroticism, and being, erotic intelligence, and that's the concept that she's promoted. I actually have her game, Where Should We Begin? A game of stories by Esther Perel. I'm really a fan. Why I even wanted to discuss the quote is because it really resonated with me when I heard her say it, and it just feels really connected to my journey in romantic relationships so far in my life. So we're reading the quote again. So it says, we're born, this is paraphrased as well, it's not a direct quote. It says, we're born with contradicting needs, a need for security and a need for freedom. Some come out of childhood wanting more connection, more protection, more intimacy, while others come out of childhood wanting more space, more freedom, more individuality. One more afraid of losing the other, so separateness is seen as rejection, abandonment, or exclusion, and the other more afraid of losing themselves. So they can see a need for connection as an invasion and a disrespect of individual needs. So if you've been here from the beginning, from episode 1, and you've been kind of hearing me speak to who I am, I'm not sure if it will be obvious, but I feel like it should be obvious which end I fit. And I'd love to hear which end you fit, I'd love to just kind of get people's perspective on if they've ever thought about it like this and how they fit in these two descriptions. So one child come out of childhood, one person come out of childhood wanting more connection, protection, and intimacy, while the other comes out wanting more space, more freedom and individuality. Second definitely just aligns more. The child who, or the person who came out of childhood wanting more space, more freedom, more individuality. My individuality is of high value in my life. Yeah, so separateness is not seen as rejection to me. Separateness is seen as I don't even know how to explain it, because I was almost tempted to tell you that separateness is seen as connection, which I don't think people would understand. But within me, that makes sense. I feel more connected to someone's separateness than not. I feel like my human experience within itself and your human experience within itself, and kind of seeing that from here and seeing that, you know what I mean? I feel an understanding of those separate experiences and separate needs and what the boundaries are, and that kind of interplay and dance is beautiful to me. I don't know how else to really explain that. So I guess that's because I have a high need for separateness at several points within a relationship. So I've been in love before, I've been in relationships before, I've had very close friendships, and other than the fact that my social battery is just not what other people's are, separateness is just a part of my life. It's just a part of my being and how I go about, withdrawing or retreat and withdraw to rebuild and then reconnect. It's just it's like a part of my being, like breathing, so I just feel like, what do you mean no separateness? So I guess there are relationships where there is none. There are couples that always go out together, always show up as a unit, always have the same hobbies, have the same group of friends. Some of them even work together. And I look at that and I was like, oh, that seems that's cute, that seems cool, but is that something I could do? I don't think I could do it. So this is all tied into, later in this conversation, I want us to talk about my red flags, and it's actually very fitting that we're starting with this quote, because unfortunately, thing that is such a huge part of my understanding of myself and my needs, may just be a part of my red flag list and why romantic relationships have failed or are difficult. For people who are different or who have a different perspective. So definitely resonate with the term more afraid of losing myself. I used to think at one point, or I used to really reflect on whether I had an issue with commitment. I don't have an issue with commitment, but I do have an issue with enmeshment. Anything that feels that I'm losing control of. I like to be in control of myself. So anything too enmeshed, anything feeling too hurtish, definitely feels like an invasion on my whole being, and disrespect to my individual beliefs. Right. So I can see how people on the other end of this. So the two needs are a need for security, need for freedom. We all have these separate or different types of needs. It's just that one need dominates more than the other for different people based on their experiences. And so my dominant need is a need for freedom. And I can definitely see the other perspective of where someone's dominant need for security can feel so threatened by my dominant need for freedom, and how does that really work? I'd love to kind of sit down and have a discussion with people who've, therapists who've worked with couples who kind of have these opposing needs, and really pick their brain on the guidance and steps and the experiences that they've had with people overcoming that, because it's really such a foundational part of who a person is, Yeah, so I can definitely see that perspective, just feeling like, if I'm feeling threatened by your need to be connected to me at every moment, all the time, and you are feeling my need for separateness or being away from you or having my own thing as abandonment, that sounds excruciating. That sounds horrible. That sounds painful. You know what I mean? So I can I'm trying to think back if this has shown its face like blatantly in any romantic relationship in my past. And luckily, I don't think it has. And why it hasn't is because I don't think I would have gotten to the place with someone to actually fall in love with them if our needs, I would have, maybe I didn't have the wording and this quote that has put it so brilliantly and so clearly, but I definitely had the feeling and the guts that would tell me that, hey, this can't work because our needs are just different, And that makes me sound like, I don't know. Let me not personalize it to me. That makes us sound, because I know I'm not alone in the world. So like grouchy and I don't know, Hunchback of Notre Dame-ish in our corner in the dark. Like we don't want people around us, and yeah, that's definitely not it. Like my mother used to call me antisocial all the time, right? We didn't discuss introversion versus extroversion. I mean, when I went to college, that took me a long time for me to actually start studying psychology and social psychology as well, and learning different terms. And I'm like, oh, I'm just an introvert, because I was like, antisocial just never really connected to me. When she would say it, I'd be like, well, when I read up what antisocial is and how a lot of like serial killers are antisocial and all these things, I'm like, is this what you think I am? I said, no, my needs are a little different. I love people, and I love people with like my whole entire being and whole entire heart. If I love you, I feel like you know that, and so it just never really connected, this antisocial label. I just am an introvert, and my needs are different, right? Psychological needs are different. My need for retreat, my need for separateness and freedom and individuality are perhaps different. Yeah, man, there are couples who don't go to places without one another. There are families that go out together every weekend and they look really happy. It's not like I look at these it's not like I'm looking on being like, ugh. I'm looking at, wow, wow. They look content, but also having full-fledged awareness that, wow, I don't know if that's for me. And I think that feeling has definitely been responsible for a lot of my reflection in the past about the concept of marriage and whether I would ever get married, whether it was something that I wanted really, whether it was, for me, whether I'd be a good wife, Other red flags. I mean, it's so weird to talk about your flaws on the internet, but why not, right? I sat down this week and just kind of, it's hard to think about your red flags though, because I'm just like, well, I'm a beautiful girl and I'm perfect and I love, and everybody should love me back because I do no wrong and I try my hardest. And what do you mean red flag, right? But in all seriousness, we all have our personal red flags. We all have our flaws. Everybody have them thing, and nobody's a better roses to live with, to connect with, to be in relationship with at all times, right? So I think these are what I came up with. I definitely have a blind spot and a bias, clearly, but I can be possessive. Yeah. Taurus gang, stand up. Yeah, man. If it's my man, it's my man though. You know what I mean? If it's my best friend, it's my best friend. You understand? If it's my task, it's my own though. You know what I'm saying? If it's my piece of chicken, it's mine. You understand? So, alright, the chicken thing is definitely in jest, but I can't be possessive for sure. I think I've gotten so much better at that though. I think growing up, I noticed it and I would question myself. I was like, well, is this jealousy? And it never really quite feel like jealousy to me. Let me look at the difference between jealousy and possessiveness, because I know they're different, because it don't quite feel like, because I mean, jealous is an emotion, right? Or a feeling. I felt jealousy before. It's not a emotion I feel often, but I'm human and I've felt it before, but this is different than what I'm explaining. So jealousy versus possessiveness in relationships, right? Jealousy and possessiveness, while often intertwined, are distinct emotional and behavioral patterns in relationships. Jealousy is a feeling of resentment or insecurity stemming from a perceived threat. Exactly, right? Often involving fear of losing something valued. Possessiveness, on the other hand, is a behavior characterized by a desire to control or own someone or something, often arising from a fear of abandonment or a need for power. Right. So here how me dissect that now. So it say what it say. It say characterized by a desire to control, but I don't really have that much of a desire to control other people. I actually really find it attractive when someone is in control of themselves. When someone is not trying to control me, when I don't need to control them, when they're in control of themselves and I'm in control of myself. That is a dynamic that I find really attractive, right? We can make proper decisions. They're sound, they're considerate, you understand what I'm saying? I trust you to choose what's best for you. You trust me to choose what's best for me. And if we need to come together and make those choices work so we can walk hand in hand, we'll do that. It's kind of how I see that. So the desire for control thing, I don't know. We can talk that through with the therapist to see if there's an underlying thing, but how I know myself to show up that I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. Yeah. But often arising from a fear of abandonment or a need for power. Okay. All right. Need for power. I'll take it. It don't sound sexy, but I'll take it. And I don't think my ex-partners would disagree. I don't think I'm overly dominant. Gee. Lead to the next red flag. Masculine energy, right? It's all intertwined, isn't it? I do have a lot more, or I can have a lot more masculine energy than feminine energy, because people have both feminine and masculine energy, right? I think I show more of my masculine energy, and especially because I'm 39 years old and I've been doing life by myself, and I've just made all my decisions on my own, and I'm looking after myself. I'm looking after my tiny family. As tiny as it is, it's still my family. I'm providing, I'm protecting, I'm also coming up with fun. I'm also schoolwork. I'm also housework. I'm also making a home. I'm doing it all. To do it all, there you can't be submissive and weak and sit to the side, and you know what I'm saying? You have to choose one. You have to choose a path. You understand? And my path just came out of real necessity. I don't know if so see how the thing go now, everything connected, but then it's like a loop. Because I'm just like, well, if I had gotten married earlier in my life, maybe I wouldn't find the need for this type of energy all the time and have to do everything on my own. But maybe this was an inkling from so long ago that I had been showing up as, that has probably prevented people from stepping in and wanting to take care of me, because who wants to take care of somebody who is adamant that they can take care of themselves, right? So yeah, man, the loop, all connected, got it. Third red flag. So we had possessiveness. Well, the first one was coming from, can be seen as a red flag, was the need for freedom being dominant. And that can also be connected to, I believe I'm avoidantly attached. So let's look up what avoidantly attached means, right? Somebody I was talking to at one time, so I have like a ting connection, like a chat, but yeah. So somebody else, like a chat, not a relationship, pointed out to me. It's the first time anybody has ever pointed it out to me that, you can be so dismissive sometimes. And I was like, gasp. I was like, excuse me? And the gasp was definitely because it touched a realization in me that he was right. I can be dismissive sometimes. Does that make me a dismissive person? Full stop. I don't know. I don't know if I buy that. But can I be dismissive sometimes? Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, when we don't talk about it, yeah, man, dismissed. So, yeah, can I be dismissive sometimes? Yes. Do I think I'm a dismissive person? Full stop. No. But blind spots, right? So I definitely feel like I'm avoidantly attached though. And everything about avoidantly attachment still doesn't resonate with me. So I haven't done any official tests. I haven't addressed this in therapy. So this is really just me knowing the different attachment styles and seeing which one resonates with me the most. So this is not anything official, right? But avoidant attachment is a pattern where individuals have difficulty forming close relationships due to fear of intimacy and a strong desire for independence, right? So we've clearly seen the strong desire for independence and difficulty with emotional intimacy. I can see that because of the strong independence, because of a distrust of others, because of it's coming from childhood. And if you've learned that you can only really rely on yourself to show up for you, then trusting other people and being that kind of emotional intimacy and trusting others to be there for you and to rest in connection is not something that is in me. But yeah, characterized by strong independence, distrust of others, emotional detachment, difficulty with commitment, fear of dependence, self-reliance. Yeah. But you see, like this one though, superficial relationships, absolutely not. they maintain superficial relationships to avoid deeper emotional involvement. Absolutely not. But not maintain no secret. So maybe that's why I'm a recluse. Cause if that's what I have to do now to deal with other things, I'm not going to do that. So I prefer to just not do it at all. You know what I mean? Causes of avoidant attachment: emotional neglect or absence, overly critical or demanding parents, traumatic experiences, impact on relationships, difficulties in romantic relationships, strain on friendships, challenges in family relationships. Treatment: self-awareness. That's what we're here, guys. That's what we're doing right now, right? Developing self-awareness about one's attachment style and the impact it has on relationships is an important first step. Step one. All right, next thing. So we had dominant need for freedom connected to avoidant attachment style, possessive, was that the three I did? So are those my only red flags that I could come up with? I feel like there was more, but that's all that's really shouting at me right now. Oh, but I did say the fear of dependence. Yeah, that's tied into avoidantly attached. And yeah, the masculine energy thing. Yeah. Having relied on myself for quite some times for everything. I trust myself completely. I have distrust of others. I have trouble resting in connection and trusting that people show up for me. That can be off-putting for a man who wants to come in and with that feminine, be with someone who's going to rest in connection with him, to be submissive to him and trust that he will lead. Both of them. Working on it. It's a work in progress, guys. It's a work in progress, right? She's softening. She is aware. Step one, self-awareness. That's what we're doing right now, right? So those are my red flags, guys. What are your red flags? I'm so upset that we're not having a back and forth right now. For real. I wish you guys would tell me in the comments or the comment section, but maybe not everybody wants to put their red flags on the internet like me. But even if you don't put it in the comment section, encouraging you to, but even if you don't, I hope you sit and think about it as well. If you're single or if you're not single, red flag just means things that may be off-putting, things that don't make you a bed of roses to live with and connect with and rest with, and things that you could benefit from being self-aware of and making some sort of plan to work on it, right? So not completely different from what we're talking about is this quote that I saw by the IG handle is I'm gonna tell you, anxiously coupled on Instagram, and she put up a thread or a series of posts, a group of posts, which I think the opener one said, like, sometimes men marry women who they don't even like, right? How this ties into what we're talking about. So we're talking about the different needs, and where you fit, and how this affects, how you relate to people. Then we're talking about my personal red flags, what I've seen come up, or what I believe could be perceived as a red flag to other people, romantically. And then this quote really had me sit with, as I sit here to work on myself, to one day, rest in connection with somebody. Is this also a red flag that I will never be able to sit in this bullshit? Right? It stirred up something. I don't know if you call it anger. It's not anger. I'm not angry. But it was almost validating in my singlehood. This is what I've been trying to communicate or articulate to others. When sometimes what I've experienced in a relationship, what I see around me in other relationships, I have to come to the realization that maybe marriage isn't for me, maybe this is not in my future, maybe, you know, what I want, the partnership that I desire is not out there. You know what I mean? Because I will never be okay with this. And this is like my greatest fear in connecting with people. This whole thread is my greatest fear currently in connections with people and actually deciding to marry someone. So it says a man can dislike, resent, or even quietly despise his partner and still go ahead and marry her. Not always out of malice, sometimes out of practicality, out of fear, out of habit, pressure, or avoidance of deep emotional work. There are men who choose a partner because she fits an idea of stability, status, or tradition. There are men who stay with someone they don't respect, but she makes life easier, manages things for them, or mothers them. Sometimes they do love something about her loyalty, her looks, her reliability, but they don't like her. They might not admire her mind, trust her emotional responses, or even enjoy her presence. They might see her as needy, annoying, weak, or overbearing, depending on their own unresolved issues. Many men are socialized to suppress relational self-awareness. They've never been taught to get curious about their partner, find out who she is, what she likes, if they like her, if they're actually connected, or just going through the relationship on autopilot, following carefully constructed social norms. Instead, they're taught to think in terms of logic, roles, and outcome. She's loyal, she won't leave, she'll raise the kids, she won't challenge me too much. And for some, that's enough. They might even see emotional compatibility as unnecessary. Jesus, it's bleak. Yeah. This whole thread may be perceived as a red flag for others because I will never sit in that. It's more important to be liked. It's more important to me to be respected. It's more important to exist and rest in truth and authenticity. My biggest fear is to be married to someone who doesn't enjoy my presence, who doesn't really like me, who doesn't respect me, who chose me because I was an easy choice to help manage them life and fold up them laundry and so on, cook some dinner and read for the kids and yeah man, sort out the finance. And you know, in a way it makes that sound bad, but that isn't bad. That's just bad for me. That's not, and we have said that I'm idealistic, and that's not the partnership that I'd like for life. I would rather be on my own than be in what would be to me some fake partnership, some fake parade, you know? But then there's the other end when you switch this, that women also do this, you know? They also do it in different ways. They have different patterns of how they choose, you know, a lot for financial things, a lot for settling, just not having to worry about things financially, to have things sorted, to have somewhere to raise their kids. So maybe it's just me needing to understand what marriage is. That's why I said, like, my reconciliation of wanting life partnership and wanting marriage, I've been having trouble reconciling the two. Because as I listen to this, and this is my biggest fear, you know, a lot of marriages are built on this. That's the struggle I'm having of reconciling the two, because my desire for life partnership is so different than that, you know. I want it to be different than that. That's why I'm here on Open Therapy, to work through these things, because that could just be some idealistic notion in my head that needs to be destroyed. And yeah. So thank you so much if you're this far in the video. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I hope you love me because I love you. See you guys next week.